G'day, this is Fiona Boys, and you're watching 101.9 KINK Radio in the Skype live studio.
Miss Fiona Boyd, thank you so much for being a part of today.
Well, it's delightful to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You kidding me? Welcome into my abode. It's about time I get more of my blues shows artists on the stage, too. I love the accent. Is that New York?
Yeah, no, I often say to people, I play blues from way down south, further south than that. I'm originally from Melbourne, Australia. I've been living all over in recent years. Since I left Portland, I lived in Portland for a year, and I've been back in Australia for some years now. Currently living in northern New South Wales. It's rather like Florida. It's kind of
What's the musical scene seem like? Because everybody says, Austin, Portland have a little bit. So what is South Wales? What does that have to do with Portland? Does it have any kind of love to it as well?
Well, I adore Portland. In many ways, it reminds me of my hometown of Melbourne. Both great places for music, and I think there's this incredible energy that comes out of, in a city when there is sort of a quantum amount of great musicians and good players. It energises a place, and I think Portland's definitely one of those.
What made you bring yourself here and all this talent to Portland in the first place? Was it Dartboard? Or?
The Waterfront Blues Festival.
Was it that?
Yes, and Paul DeLay's band, and I've had a long time working with Dave Carl on bass, who played for Paul, and then in more recent years with Jimmy Bott, the fabulous Jimmy Bott on drums, and so it was the Waterfront Blues Festival for sure.
Very cool. Well, you just mentioned Jimmy's name. We had one of his other workers here, which is also on Reference Records, Doug MacLeod.
Yes.
So how did this come about, getting with Reference? Did you go to them? Did they come to you?
Well, they have their main Reference Recordings is it's a wonderful opportunity to work with them because they're actually not a blues label. They're an audiophile label, and but they have a side project, a side label called Fresh. Lloyd Jones from right here in your town, Portland, has an album out with them on the Fresh label. But they normally do, large ensemble, symphonic, jazz, high-end audiophile recordings on their main Reference recording label. And so I guess Doug MacLeod's albums were sort of this grand new experiment to try and put into a huge soundstage where they would normally record these kind of albums, just an acoustic artist playing. And they do very high-end, they have Keith Johnson, who is the guru, records this way, and he has his own gear that he's invented, and so there's no, you just sit. There's no headphones. There's not. You just play. So.
And the crazy thing is, too, he's got like $15,000 to $20,000 microphones now. Is that the kind of guitar that works well with a $20,000 microphone?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I normally say don't try this at home, but you may as well try this at home. This is it's a cigar box. It was made for me by a friend in the mighty metropolis of Yakandanda, Victoria, Australia. I love the health warning on the front. It has two notes, B flat and F. B flat and F, and I'm playing it with a small whiskey bottle as a slide, because sometimes you can just take a little nip of that.
Yeah, that's right.
If you're on the bathroom.
I also got to see that you did a little bit of shopping. So when you come to Portland, you go to see old haunts. I see you got a nice new shirt at the Buffalo Gap. Will you be wearing that tonight, or?
Well, I'm saving that. I thought I might do a photo shoot while I'm here. So if anyone knows a good place, we'll have a chat.
We need a photographer. Anybody with a camera in there?
Look at that. We just need a place to do it. So, I was looking for some new photos.
So the new album, Box and Dice, is fantastic. Was that recorded back home?
It was, and that my last several albums have been recorded in Austin, Texas. All at Wire Recordings in Austin with the same sort of group of people. And the one problem with loving working with people is that they don't live down the road from my house in Australia, and the last few years I've been doing a lot more touring in Europe, so I'd had a 6-string cigar box which features on the cover of Box and Dice, and that is actually the Box and Dice. It's another very funky looking instrument. It's got dice for the volume and tone knobs, and it's a bigger one. It's 6-string, so you can play it more like a traditional guitar. But I took that on a couple of tours in Europe, and people just loved it. So I thought, well, everyone said, which album is that on? So I went home to Melbourne, Australia, and got my regular rhythm section, Dean Addison on upright bass, Mark Grundon on drums and percussion. And basically over a couple of days we threw it down, and so much fun because there's a lot of really quirky instrumentation. Mark Grundon, my percussionist, is, you know, there's one track where he stood in front of a microphone in a pair of loose trousers with change in his pocket.
Oh, good.
Clink. Clink.
That was
You know,
me?
yeah. I think he was just having fun, but, you know, so you'll find on the track listing, you know, 4-string cigar box, bundle of chains, loose coins, and a horseshoe. That's the instrumentation for that track, you know. I like horseshoes on my album.
Percussionists find rhythm everywhere in life, don't they?
I think the horseshoe and chains are represented in the modern blues recording, so I'm kind of trying to address that.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, once again, thank you for being here, because Portland is pretty much, we consider it, you're one of our sisters.
Oh, I do.
So we love you for being here. I remember when you moved back, or when you moved here, and everybody was telling me about this new artist, that she's fantastic and she's a part of Portland. And you left us, and you always come on back, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Blackwell's tonight. Maybe see you at Jim's party on Saturday?
Oh, yes.
Sounds
my
good.
word.
Fiona Boys, guys.
Well, let me just put this one down. Thank you. And I'll play a little acoustic for you.